views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Your journey on the path of freedom starts here. A Life Untethered with Andrew Martin. Walking the path of freedom is a celebration of those brave spirits who have faced their fears and reclaimed their power. Andrew is dedicated to challenging the old paradigms and setting you on your path to living a life free from limitation. You're about to begin the journey of becoming your higher self in a life untethered. And now, here is your host, Andrew Martin.
Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. How are you? You are listening to A Life Untethered with Andrew Martin. That's me. I'm your host, Andrew Martin. I'm coming to you live from Moon Lab Studios in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. It is a beautiful day in Brooklyn. And man, I don't know about you, but these energies right now are crazy. OMG. I mean, I know that eclipse season is always a powerful time of year, but between, we had the new moon or the full moon and the lunar eclipse, and then we had the Lionsgate portal on 8/8, and now we're working up to the solar eclipse on the 21st, and then we've got the equinox coming up in the end of September. It is just a powerful corridor that we are in right now, and change is the order of the day. And, today's topic could not be more perfectly aligned with where I feel we are collectively and where I am personally. Today's topic for the show is living in service of your soul. And I have an amazing guest for you today who I'm going to introduce in just a moment. But this idea of how to live in service of your soul is such a timely topic right now for us collectively because eclipse season always brings about massive, often abrupt changes. Like the changes that generally come in around this time are often just like, what? Who saw that coming? For myself, this is so relevant because, for those of you that have been following me on my social media or following my videos that I share on my YouTube channel, I recently made the decision to move back to Brooklyn, and I've been here for about 4.5, 5 months. And literally just, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago I made the decision to move back to San Francisco. And, even for someone like myself who's pretty, I consider myself to be pretty in tune with my inner nudges and my inner voice. And I, at this point in my life, have gotten some faith and some trust and have context in my experience. And I've learned how to follow these nudges, but it still feels like a big WTF. I mean, I just got here. So today's topic is all about that. How do we follow those inner prompts of the soul when it oftentimes feels like the most illogical, irrational, confusing, inconvenient thing, right? I've got bills to pay, I've got kids, or I've got a career, or I've got a partner, or I've got all of that. And even though I might hear that inner voice, it still can feel terrifying, and it can still feel like just a big old pain in the butt. So that's what we're going to talk about today. My guest is the amazing Laren Alta, and I will tell you, Laren and I go way back. Years ago, we both worked as makeup artists, and that's how we met. And then our paths would continue to cross in Seattle and New York, and then Seattle again. She is a bright, brilliant, fiery soul. She's a soul guide. She's a shadow diver. She's a spiritual teacher, and really her expertise is she loves to come in and burn down that stale, fluffy, boring self-help formula, and she really loves to help women ignite their true spiritual liberation. Her work is really all about freedom, and that's something that we are kindred spirits in, is how do we support each other in finding it and cultivating it and living it. Laren loves to get into the nitty gritty. She believes that loss and grief and pain are healing initiations, and when we honor those heavier, oftentimes those emotions that we like to sort of shove to the side, if we honor them, they can fortify you. They can bring you through the shadows and into the light of your soul. So I am so excited to welcome Laren today. Laren, I am so happy you are here.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. My heart is full, my face is bright, and I love you so much. And I'm glad to have this conversation because it is divine and perfect timing that we are talking about it right now.
It really is. And I can say, you and I have known each other for a long time. I can't even really remember how long at this point, but you have all, and we were talking about this before the show, you have always been a harbinger of change in my life. Like every time our paths intersect, not only am I just thrilled to see you because I love you so much, but you have this power that you carry within you that always tends to shake things up. So I love that that's sort of how you've built your practice. So tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do through your work.
Sure. So as you said, I'm a soul guide, a spiritual teacher, a shadow diver, and I really sit with women and guide them through the process of healing and transformation back home to themselves. Because I think, spirituality gets this very love and light reputation, which I love, and I love light. But we don't always know how to go into the harder, more uncomfortable, painful parts of our souls, of our lives, of our healing that really give us that depth and transformation. So I run workshops, retreats, and one-on-one in-person intensives that create a sacred and safe container for helping women safely explore and heal those parts of themselves that they've disowned or forgotten or shoved under the carpet, so they can reclaim them and step into their fullness and own their whole power, which requires owning the shadow too.
I love that. Like I get goosebumps just listening to you talk about, and I share that with you. Love and light is great, but what I say, sometimes love is, that smack upside the head that sort of wakes you up and shakes your world,
Yes.
to the core. And sometimes light is the bolt of lightning that just burns it all down.
Yes.
It's not always an easy process.
No, it's not always easy. It's not always simple. It's not always linear. It doesn't always make sense. As you said earlier, it's not something that can be wrapped in a bow. But if you go by yourself, or you are going with a companion who kind of knows the way, then you can really get into the depth of the healing, which is where the juicy stuff is. I think that's where the real goodness is.
And isn't it so amazing when we can come to that point? I mean, for myself and my own journey and through my own work, is getting people or myself to that point where they see that the very thing that they are so terrified to embrace or look at is the very thing that holds the stuff that they're really looking for.
Oh, yes. That's it. That's it. It's
so juicy.
So juicy. And that's why I don't think of myself, I say, if you're looking for a magic wand or like magic fairy dust, you've come to the wrong place. I don't have either of those, but I'm going to help you get the tools so that you can learn how to do this on your own. Because I don't ever want people to be looking at me as the kind of answer. I want women and men, of course, to always figure out how to get their own answers, that they carry the answers with them. And how do you drop in and tap in and listen to them and follow them from Seattle to New York to San Francisco, regardless of how it looks on the outside, but you're living your truth.
Right. So why do, today's topic, you and I kind of went back and forth with some ideas. And when you sent me the idea of, how to live in service of your soul, like that just lit up as like, bingo, this is the one. So why do you think right now this is such an important topic for us to be opening up?
I think it's so layered. And I think it depends on where you're entering the conversation. On one hand, we are living in such an externally validating, externally focused world that's about the career and the clothes and the car and the status and the house and the white picket fence and all that. And even if you achieve all that and you do, quote unquote, all the right things, there usually comes a point when stuff hits the fan and you realize that the deep satisfaction, the deep meaning, the deep fulfillment that you're seeking has nothing to do with any of those things. And that they will never give you that sense of peace or richness that you want. So I think that's one part of it. And the answer is then in going inside and finding what your soul is, how do you connect with it, and then how do you become in service of it, which is a whole nother quest.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, even if people are in this spiritual world or this spiritual conversation, they often are just skimming the surface. And so it's a good time to figure out how do you go into the depths so that the people who are called to be light workers or shadow workers on the planet have more skills and tools and resources to do it right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those of us who are called to this calling or a path of service, it's important for us to know how to do that. And then I think for listeners who are maybe like, okay, but I work at Starbucks, or I work at a bank, or I'm a stay-at-home parent, how is this relevant to me? I think that it's even more important to understand that you don't have to put on a turban and call yourself Miss Cleo to follow, to walk, to live in service of your soul, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That, the Buddha has a quote. I think it was either the Buddha or Rumi. Sometimes I forget who said what, but one of them said, wherever you are, be the soul of that place. And so that can be Starbucks. That can be a conversation with your kids. That can be with your spark partner. And most importantly, that needs to be in the conversation with yourself. How are you being kind to yourself? How are you being gentle with yourself? How are you being compassionate with yourself so that wherever you go, you can show up and be in that place of love? And that's one of the things I've always loved and cherished and valued about you is no matter where we are, if we're in the metaphysical bookstore, if we're at the makeup counter, if wherever we are, that you are the soul of that place. And there's a deep resonance that I have with you. And I don't think it has to be this like mountain feat with as you said, with a turban, but it's like, how do you be in love right here, right now with whatever's happening?
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. This hour is already flying by. My brain is spinning and I'm like, we need to do like a 4-hour episode. So there's so much more to cover on this topic. So stay with us, please. You are listening to A Life Untethered with Andrew Martin. My amazing guest today is Laren Alta, and we are discussing how to live in service of the soul. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back with more.
This episode is brought to you in part by Moon Recording. Moon Recording is our proud home here at A Life Untethered and is located in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. If you have any recording needs, you should definitely check them out. They offer affordable recording services to musicians and podcasters, and their friendly staff specializes in recording everything from full bands to vocals in their vocal production suite. For 1 hour free, visit moon.nyc and enter code UNTETHERED when booking your first session.
Tune in to Lucid Planet Radio with Dr. Kelly Neff. This hit show will illuminate your senses and empower you beyond your daily stressors and hardships. Renowned psychologist and author Dr. Kelly will captivate you with far-reaching topics and amazing guests as you wake to the greatest version of yourself. Learn to tap into your intuitions, think critically about our world, heal emotional and psychological wounds, and follow your passions to live your dreams. The Lucid Planet. Welcome home. Visit lucidplanetradio.com for more information.
Tune in to The Truth is Funny with Colette Steffen each Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This hit show will have you thinking outside the box and riding the wave of infinite potential. Join Colette on the Higher Self Network, inspiring listeners to shine their brilliance and ensure success while roaring with laughter as they recognize the humor of the giant cosmic joke. Visit TheTruthIsFunny.com.
Tune in to the hit show Mouthing Off with Chef Rossi. Chef Rossi mouths off about different subjects in pursuit of breaking down walls and opening up your minds. She and Dr. Pat banter back and forth, taking from the headlines of the day on subjects that reach beyond what goes on in the world into your hearts. And go to theragingskillet.com to find out more and let Chef Rossi know what's on your mind.
Thrive is what we experience when our mind, body, and soul operate as one. When we thrive, we excel on all levels. Thrive is the mindset that matters. It is essential to our being. Have you ever found yourself looking for the instruction manual on how to thrive? You'll find everything you need to help you feel strong, powerful, and peaceful in your own body. So don't waste any more time. Visit thrivebyjen.com today.
Tune in to The Jen Royster Show, intuitive guidance to inspire your life, each Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This amazing show is an inspirational hour that will take you on an epic metaphysical journey to discover the spiritual approach to life's greatest challenges. Dr. Jen is an internationally known intuitive counselor, spiritual teacher, and energy healer. Call in for intuitive readings and visit JenRoyster.com for more information.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to A Life Untethered with Andrew Martin. Today, we are talking about living in service of your soul. This is a massive topic, and I am with my dear friend, Laren Alta. Laren, before we get into the conversation too deeply and forget, because I know I will forget, tell our listeners how they can find you. What's your website? What's your social media? How can they track you down?
Sure. My website is currently sisterfire.com, sisterfire.com. But the new site is being rebirthed and reborn bright and early on Tuesday morning, Tuesday, August 15th. So it'll always redirect you to, even if you go to Sister Fire, it'll always redirect you to the new site. And I'm at all social media at larenalta.com.
Fantastic. Congratulations on the new website. I know that's such a huge project.
Thank you. Yes, it has been a long time coming. It's this rebirth. It's how did
It is.
Yes, because I started doing in-person workshops and retreats almost 20 years ago, healing workshops, transformational work. And in 2010, I discovered the internet and thought I had an online business. And it took me a good 5-6 years to realize that I don't, that my work is deep and powerful and really transformational in the same room with people, face to face, heart to heart, soul to soul. So I had to get rid of everything and rebuild it from scratch. So that's what's coming out on Tuesday.
Amazing. Amazing. And I think that, what you're speaking about is, words like transformation and healing and integration and unification with the self. I think that, when we're talking about how to live in service of the soul, I think that for maybe people who are listening are like, what are they even talking about? For me, it's that voice that says like, okay, there's something else. There's something different. What if you did this? What if you made this choice? What if you moved in this direction? Are you happy? It's this nudge that just you feel it in your bones. And it's oftentimes such a subtle thing, right? It's such a quiet thing because the voice of the soul, I think, is often, especially in the beginning, it's something you have to learn and cultivate and kind of learn how to speak that language.
Totally. Absolutely. And it's about surrender. It's about not needing to be right. And I had a challenge. I've always been very strong. Some people call it intuition. Some people call it the Holy Spirit. Some people call it an inner knowing. To me, it's all different names for the same thing. And I went through a phase when I was listening to it and following it, even this tiniest thing, like walk on this side of the road or wear this today, or the teeny tiniest things. I was very obedient in listening to it. And then I got rebellious. And I was like, well, what would happen if I didn't listen to it? What would happen if I just did what I wanted to do anyway? And it was not good. It was just not, it was not good. I felt off. I felt out of my body. I felt misaligned. I could feel it physically, emotionally, energetically. And I think until we learn to listen to those small whispers, that kind of misalignment starts to feel normal. We're familiar with the discomfort of not being aligned. And it's hard for us to trust those little nudges because we don't even know where they're coming from or how they're going to end up. So I think it takes a radical trust to just try it out for a little and see how things might happen.
That's so powerful. And you're right. I think by nature, humans are so resilient that we can adapt to just about anything. And so when it's bad and we learn how to survive, because I always sort of look at it as like, are you thriving or surviving? Because either one can feel like a life, right? Either one can feel like you get up in the morning and you do your thing. And if you feel like you're entering into a war zone with your life, then that's your life. And if you feel like you're entering into a life that feels like paradise, then that's your life. Either way, you're sort of moving forward through your experience. But I think you're right that voice of the soul, of the spirit, of the self, of God, of whatever, the universe, whatever you want to call it, it is oftentimes because it doesn't really have anything to prove.
Right.
So it's not out to convince you of anything.
Yes.
It's just there to say, hey, what if you did this? So when you're working with someone, or if someone's listening and they're thinking like, okay, yeah, Laren has my interest and I want to know more about this. Is there a way that you think people can begin to just cultivate that relationship with that voice? How do you do it? How do you start?
I think part of it is creating space. And it doesn't even have to be, acting on it can be step 3 or 5 or 10. If you create just enough space to hear it, that can be a beginning. So we tend to, especially in this culture, fill our day from the moment we open our eyes until the moment we go to sleep. We wake up to our cell phone, into the news, into what's happening on social media, and then we hop out of bed and we're like racing from the moment we put our feet on the floor, or even sometimes before that, all the way through our day. So I think a great place to start is not doing that, is creating a moment where you can sit and breathe. And I have a daily meditation practice of at least an hour, but that doesn't have to be everybody's practice. 5 minutes can be a good place to start, where you're just focusing on your breath, where you're not preoccupied. And that may require setting your alarm 5 minutes earlier. But if you create some breathing room, some downtime, then you'll start to notice, because it's not that the messages aren't coming. It's just that they're coming in a sea of a lot of other noise. So how do you create enough white space to hear it? That's the first place I would start.
That's beautiful. And you're right. There's so much noise. And because we're so, and it's, this isn't the first time that this comparison has been made, but we are so connected in so many ways. But that really has led to this sense of internal disconnection that's so deep and profound, because like you said, like there's sometimes before I even get out of bed, and I've had to learn, like, I don't put my phone by my bed, and I don't put, it's like I have my 5 minutes in the morning where I just lay in bed and I sort of scan my body and I breathe and ask, like, what's on the agenda today? What do you want me to know? And I ask that of myself. But so many of us, before we're even out of bed, we're on the phone, we're answering emails, we're answering texts, whatever it is. And there's just no place in our day where it's silent.
Yes, absolutely. And I have some small rituals that I've put in my day. So I have my daily meditation practice. And before I open my eyes, before I do anything, I say a small prayer, which comes from the Bible, which I don't identify as a Christian today, but I was raised in the Christian church and I don't have anything against it. And there's a Bible verse that says, "This is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it." And I say that to myself every morning before I open my eyes, before I do anything, because it already surrenders my day to something greater. It already gets me off the hook from having to be perfect. It gets me off the hook from having to have all the right answers. It's like, I can just be glad. I can rejoice and be glad in this day. And then I open it up to whatever's going to happen. So that's like one small thing. And it can be anything for anybody, but an affirmation, a meditation, a body scan, like you said, something that gets you present. So you're not projecting yourself into what's about to happen, but you can be right here in this moment.
That's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And I think it's so important to remember that it's a spiritual practice, right? This is about relearning how to be in your body, relearning how to be in your life. And, when you go to the gym, you don't go for the first time, you don't go straight to, the 50-pound weights. You start with, 5 pounds or 10 pounds or whatever. So starting small, oftentimes I think we get so caught up in this idea that, it's meaningless, it's irrelevant, it's just a small, tiny thing. But those small, tiny moments of connection can change everything.
Oh, absolutely. And they do. They do change everything. It's just, it gives me a sense of peace to say that and then move into the rest of my day. And it's just like, because I have been on this spiritual path for a long time, and I love it. And it's really my breath. But, and so I can kind of chart different phases of it. And I know I went through a phase when I was what I call spiritually arrogant, where I thought that my, everything kind of rose and fell based on my actions. Everything had to do with me, that I was in charge. And it was very hard. It was very overwhelming. It was very troubling to not really rely on or surrender to something greater than myself. And I had to kind of let that go so that I could become more myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think that happens is, it's always about peeling back a layer. And I went through the same thing. I went through this, I call it my spiritually entitled phase where, where I thought I was Harry Potter with a magic wand and I was trying to turn everything into gold or whatever, you know what I mean? And I would get very upset when things wouldn't bend to my will. And, it's what Matt Kahn says, he says it's just a journey of the ego disguised as a journey of spirit. But learning how to just love myself even in that place and say that, this isn't about, judging myself or condemning myself for that. This is just part of the journey. You keep peeling back those layers. And before long, if you commit to it and keep doing it, you get to a nugget that's purer and purer and purer. And you get closer and closer, I think, to aligning with that truth.
That's exactly it. And that's why I think, it's important to say, especially to people who are at the beginning or the onset of their journey, that this is not simple. This is not easy. This is not like, just say these things and chant this and everything will be fine. It's a journey. It's a process. And like, it's a peeling back. It's an evolution. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. There's no perfection. There's no finish line. It's just learning and growing and evolving and coming and closer to your soul, living in service of who you are, at the root, at the core.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I always say there's no guarantee that it's going to be easy, convenient, or comfortable. And when we can get over that and let go of that. And I think also, like you said, there is no finish line. Like I always joke, like, don't be looking for the day when you can just take your bra off and finally just kick back and not have any work left to do, because it's never coming.
No,
right? We're an infinite being.
Right. And it doesn't make it wrong. It's just like that. I find that I get to be softer and more compassionate and gentler if I know that there is no finish line, because that means there's no finish line for all those other people either. Like they're on their own journey, even if we have, elected officials who I don't necessarily agree with. It's part of my medicine to learn how do I love them, even though I think that they're ruining the planet?
And that's a tall order. Beautiful. So we are going to take a break. Please stay with us. You are on A Life Untethered with Andrew Martin, talking with Laren Alta about how to live in service of the soul. We'll be right back.
Chris Stanis is a spiritual leader and healer and teaches a course on how you can transform your life through a meditation and healing system that will manifest your spirit's dreams. She manifested the Women of Wisdom Conference, the Women of Wisdom book, and this radio show. And she can show you how to change your life too. Are you ready? Visit the website and contact her at voicesofwomentoday.com. That's voicesofwomentoday.com.
On the cutting edge of the new mainstream, Christine Upchurch is passionate about bringing together science, psychology, and spirituality in a way that can be applied to our everyday lives for true transformation. The Christine Upchurch Show, stellar conversations to illuminate your journey, engages some of the most outstanding visionaries on the planet in lively dialogue to inspire you to become that bright light you're meant to be. Join Christine every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time on KKNW, AM 1150, and Transformation Talk Radio.
Isn't it time to put your health first? To give yourself the gift of whole body wellness? What if embracing unconditional love and self-care was the first step to wellness? Could you honor that for yourself? My name is Audrey Michelle, host of Rewired Life Radio and the author of Rewired Life, A Journey to Untangle Chronic Pain and Endometriosis. In my book, I share how I healed from 17 years of chronic pain and disease. Get your signed copy at audreymichelle.com/book, spelled MICHEL.com/book.
Get ready to experience Truth Talk Radio with host Deb Acker. Tune in to Truth Talk Radio each Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com to illuminate the truth in your daily life as you experience life, love, and abundance from a whole new perspective. This hit show will leave you feeling lighter and bring you into a place of infinite possibilities every day in every way. Visit TruthTalkRadioshow.com for upcoming transformative topics and guests.
Are you feeling stagnant or blocked in your love life, career, health, or finances? Experiencing difficulty focusing or setting and achieving goals? Tune in to Spiritual Diagnostics Radio with psychic visionary healers Carol Dorian and Justice Welling. Discover the cause and effect of unwanted patterns in life. Tune in every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. For more information, visit spiritualdeed.com.
Now you can be a part of one of the most powerful programs to help create a more joyful, loving, abundant, and peaceful world. Every day at 12 noon in any time zone, join millions of other people around the world to spend a few minutes in joy, love, and gratitude. Brought to you by Robert Schoenfeld, host of the Art of Powerful Living Radio. Together, we can raise the vibration of the planet. For more information, visit globalmomentofjoy.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to A Life Untethered with Andrew Martin. I am here with my amazing guest, Laren Alta, and today we are talking about how to live in service of the soul. And I want to make sure for any listeners who want to ask questions of myself or Laren, if you go to transformationtalkradio.com, you click on the player. When you see that little player up in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a little tab that says Ask. And so you can email us a question if you have a question for us. And if we have time, we'll get to it and perhaps answer your question on air. So we're talking about this, this idea of living in service to the soul and how do we do it? And before the break, we were discussing that, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to be convenient. It's oftentimes not even going to make sense. Mm-hmm. So, Laren, what do you say? If someone's listening and they're like, okay, yeah, well, great, but I have all these other things in my life and that's just not, practical. How do we overcome that sort of self-defeating idea that what we want, we just can't have, or it's just never going to happen because it's just not realistic?
Such a good question. I think one of the fundamental tools, one of the most important tools that I use with everybody I ever work with is meeting yourself where you are. And I know it sounds both lofty and simple at the same time. So let's even make it more tactile for the person that you're talking about right now. If they have a full-time job, they're a single parent, they have 3 kids at home, and they're overwhelmed, tired, frustrated, and hungry, and don't have any time to 5 minutes of meditation just feels like too much to add to their day. Let's just say that that's someone who's listening to this right now. The most important thing when I say meet yourself where you are, accept where you are, is to accept that that's reality. That is how you feel right now. And not to accept it as this kind of mental exercise, oh yeah, okay, but now what? But to really sit and breathe and accept that you have a full plate and just take a breath into that you are stretched thin, and take a breath into that you feel overwhelmed and frustrated and disappointed, and take a breath into that and see what shifts. Because what's really happening is if you're not accepting that, you're resisting that, you're fighting against it. And because you want it to be different, right? So if you want it to be different, we often are pushing against something because we're afraid that if we actually accept it, we're going to be stuck in it forever. We don't want to accept it because that means we're justifying it, we're validating it, we're approving of it. And so, but it's not the case and that's what I mean by the mental exercise. You're not actually accepting it if you're overanalyzing why you shouldn't accept it.
Right.
Right. If you just accept it, then things change. Then you have breathing room. But it's something that you can only experience by doing it, not by thinking about it. And that's where I would encourage people to start and to see what shifts, to see what opens up.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting because as you're saying that, and I can even feel a shift just in my energy when I sort of sit with that thought of just be where you are and breathe into that, because I think we live in this society where we become, like you said in the beginning, we become so externally focused. And it's like, if I have a hammer, then I'm always looking for a nail, right? I'm always looking for an action. I'm always looking to assert and to solve and to fix. But I think, and that's where we start to break down oftentimes is we feel like, well, how can I change this? There's no way. And I think that's so beautiful that you're saying, well, in the beginning, it's not about changing it. It's about just saying, this is where I am.
Yes, absolutely. Because nothing can change without accepting what it is. Nothing. You cannot create something new if you don't say, well, this is whatever it is. This is something. I'm going to accept that this is it so that I can change it. But if you are constantly fighting against it, you can't actually create what you want because you're in resistance to what is.
Right. And it's like we almost we often hold ourselves hostage within our experience by thinking that if I just continue to shove it to the side, it's like if I have a broken leg, I'm just going to pretend I don't have a broken leg, right? Like, well, no, you have a broken leg and that's okay.
Exactly. And it doesn't go anywhere. And I think of this when I think of, as you shared in that introduction of me, like when I think of grief and loss and pain and fear, those are things that we are taught make us weak, make us not valuable, make us unspiritual, make us all these things that we should just brush under the carpet and eventually they'll go away. But the reality is they don't go away. They build, they fester, they corrode, they seep into other areas of our life that we're trying to keep them sectioned off from. And so we really have to learn how to accept it and look it straight in the eye and see what shifts, see what happens when we accept that we're afraid, when we accept that we're in grief, when we accept that we have a pain that we don't know how to heal. Then we can figure out how to heal it. But if we're just saying, no, I'm okay. No, I'm just going to keep working. I'm just going to keep eating. I'm just going to keep over exercising. I'm just going to keep making money or spending money. Then we don't actually heal the pain that's hurting us.
Yeah, amazing. And it's kind of goes back to what we were saying in the last segment is it's just really about beginning a conversation with that life and with that part of ourselves. And rather than judging it or brushing it aside or telling it to shut up, it's just about turning it and seeing it as it is and just saying, okay, my love, what do you want me to know?
Yes. Will you share about your process when you wake up in the morning and do your body scan and ask the questions? Will you share more about that?
Yeah. So the first thing I do is when I open my eyes, the first thing I say is thank you. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this whatever. Usually it's just thank you for this day. But if I see a bird or it's beautiful, I say thank you for the sun. Thank you for the bird, whatever. And then I just check in. We talk a lot often about being a multidimensional human and sort of how do we tap into our infinity and our eternity. And I say that, we have those multidimensional levels within us right now. There's mental awareness, physical awareness, emotional awareness, and energetic awareness. And I can tune into any one of those at any given moment just by, setting my focus there. So that's what I do. I call it my morning meeting. And I just kind of I say, okay, if I'm the CEO of my experience, then I have my physical division, my emotional division, my mental division, and my energetic division. And they all need from me support so that they can do their job. So I just check in like, okay, emotional self, what's up today? Is there anything? And sometimes there's nothing. Or sometimes there's, you've been watching too much Breaking Bad. And it's terrorizing us and making us anxious. So, please go sit in the park and don't watch Netflix tonight. And I say, okay. And then I check in with the physical self, like what's up? And usually it's okay. And the beauty is that the physical needs are generally pretty simple: move, water, stretch, exercise, rest, whatever. And then I check in with the mental self, like what's on the agenda. I can, and I think what it has done for me is doing this consistently. It has taught me how to speak the language of myself. It has given me the confidence to trust that no matter what, I know what my truth feels like. Ooh. And when I start small in those mornings, when I don't have someone in my face and I don't have a decision to make and I don't have a big looming thing, when I start small, it's easier because there's nothing at stake and I learn how to trust it. So then when I do get to the big things like, hey, Andrew, you've been in New York for 4.5 months and now you're going to move back to San Francisco. And I'm like, what the heck? When it comes to a big thing, then it's easier for me to trust that choice because I already know what truth feels like.
Wow, that's so powerful. Oh, that's so powerful and beautiful.
No, I was just going to say, and it doesn't mean that I don't have days where I'm completely lost and frustrated and angry and just want to eat chips and stay in bed.
Right. When those days come, do you know that that's what's happening?
Yeah. And I let myself.
Yes.
I say, girl, if you need a day of, rom-coms and ice cream, then do it. Kneel at the shrine of Julia Roberts if that's what you need to do.
Exactly. And I think that's the distinction, right? I always say that in my work, like your external life may or may not ever change. Like you may not leave the marriage. You may not become a multi-million-dollar Oprah favorite. That may or may not happen, but your experience of your life will change. And that's where the juiciness is. And so that's why I love what you said about if you're going to stay in bed and watch Netflix and eat ice cream all day, but you're doing it with a level of awareness and permission and grace. Like you're not beating yourself up for doing it, which is very different than like, kind of hiding in it and not lovingly allowing yourself to do it, but kind of beating yourself up for being where you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing that I really believe that's so important is that what I know to be true is that as humans, the beauty of the power that we have is that we create through our emotions. Mm-hmm. And so what I know to be true is the only reason any choice is ever made, the only reason we ever want anything, whether it's a car, a meal, a husband, a wife, a job, anything, is because of how we think it will make us feel.
Yes.
That's
absolutely.
The only reason. So when I focus on how I feel first, then I short circuit and circumvent the entire other process, and I don't have to worry about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that because that gives you exactly what you said, power to be the CEO of your experience. You get to decide based on your own feelings and what you want to feel and how you do feel and create from that place, which is power. That's true power.
Yeah. And then it also gives us the permission to say, I'm taking the day off. Yeah. I'm not doing anything. I'm not adulting today.
Now you have me thinking what kind of ice cream I want to have later today. I'm like, sounds delicious.
It's one of my favorite hobbies. I'm always on the quest for my next favorite ice cream. It's really, it's one of my favorite things. I am so enjoying this conversation. I mean, we are, we're moving into our final segment, and I'm just feeling like, gosh, we just have to do a part 2. So you are listening right now to A Life Untethered with Andrew Martin. My amazing guest, Laren Alta, and I are talking about how to live in service of the soul. So we're going to continue this conversation. And if you have any questions for us, go to transformationtalkradio.com, click on the player, and in the upper right-hand corner, you will see the little tab that says Ask. You can email us a question. Please keep listening. We'll be right back after this break.
Wow. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. This is Talk Radio to Thrive By. I'm telling you, I got to pinch myself some days because when each of us gets called to do something that we so not thought was in our wheelhouse to do for a purpose that's so much greater than us, we get to show up and shine.
If you would like to show up and shine on the Dr. Pat Show as a co-host or sponsor, send us an email to inspire@thedrpatshow.com.
What if your body and mind were the compasses to the secrets, mysteries, and magic of life? Glenna Rice, co-host of The Questionable Parent, is inviting you to access all that is possible. Glenna is a 10-year certified veteran access consciousness facilitator who offers an amazing variety of life-changing classes and workshops. Work with Glenna from anywhere with teleclasses and workshops all over the globe. To learn more and see Glenna's current schedule of events, classes, and workshops, visit glennarice.com.
What is a brilliant culture, and how do we create them? Why are they important? Claudette Rowley has created a breakthrough 5-step process to help you align your culture with your business strategy for exceptional results. Looking for a culture that drives organizational excellence? Listen to Cultural Brilliance Radio, the second and fourth Friday of each month at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern on Transformation Talk Radio. To learn more or work with Claudette, visit culturalbrilliance.com.
Are you stuck in unhealthy habits, toxic relationships, and low self-esteem? Do you crave a life of inspiration, love, self-acceptance, and fun? Sounds like you're on the verge to your next big thing. Join Laura Richer, host of On the Verge Radio, helping you use your breakdown for a breakthrough, overcome life's greatest challenges, and live the life you want and deserve. Tune in each month on Transformation Talk Radio or visit SeattleHealingHypnosis.com for more information.
Do you ever feel as if you're working twice as hard but only getting half as far? Are you trying to connect with your path in life and finding it elusive? Mainstream Metaphysics Radio is a weekly call-in show where we harness our connection with the universe and use what is in our power to affect change for optimal success and happiness. This hit show bridges the divide between what is and what we do not know. Eve, named one of the country's top psychics, also known as the MBA Psychic, invites you on this journey for this live call-in show with readings, featured guests, leaders, and visionaries in both business and spiritual callings. So join Eve Thursdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com as she takes metaphysics mainstream. For more information about Eve, visit EliteTarot.com. That's EliteTarot.com.
Welcome back, everybody. You are listening to A Life Untethered with Andrew Martin. I am Andrew Martin, and I am here with the amazing Laren Alta, and we are talking today about how to live in service of your soul. We got an email from Amir, and Amir is from Ireland, and Amir just wanted to say, enjoying this talk, brilliantly said about resistance and acceptance. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Amir.
Thanks,
we
Amir.
Appreciate that. So, we're really going on this topic. I think that we could continue this conversation for hours and hours and hours, but I think one of the most important things that I've had to learn, and we kind of touched on this in the last segment, was that it's not always going to be easy, convenient, or comfortable, right? And oftentimes it can feel terrifying to be in that place where we have to give up the life that we thought we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And how has that, because on this show, one of the things that I think is so important to share with people is, I'm very open with my journey and my path. And in your own life, Laren, and, whether as a practitioner with your clients or just as a person in her life doing her best to get through her life and live her life, how has this following your soul and listening to those nudges and those yearnings and those callings, how has that served you?
Yeah, I think it's how do I begin my answer?
It's a big question.
It is a big question, and part of my answer is super clear, and the other part is like mystery, right? I don't know how it served me, but the part that I know and that I can name is that, for example, we were talking earlier about accepting who you are and where you are and just being present with yourself. I've always been strong-willed. I've always been very focused and determined, direct communicator. I'm also a Taurus, so these are some of the Tauran qualities and traits. But I've never been a people pleaser, right? And a lot of women in our culture are taught to be sweet and nice and quiet and subtle and meek and understated and demure. I've never had that. I've never had that personality, and I've never felt the pressure really in my family to be that personality. But it's not always been well received by the external world, right? And so part of it is that I know that I'm not a people pleaser, that I cut to the chase, that I say what I need to say because I'm in service to something bigger. That's not my ego, but that's the truth. That's not that there's one truth, but that if something needs to be said, I'm usually the one who says the emperor has no clothes. I'm usually the one that holds someone accountable to their truth, even if they don't want to hear it. I'm usually the one willing to rock the boat. I'm usually the one willing to push back when everybody else wants to just go along to get along. And so to me, it's that willingness to be uncomfortable, that willingness to be unpopular, that willingness to be not always seen as, the sweet woman, because there's something bigger at play, which is our own truth and liberation. And so if I am the friend that only to call, not when you're in the middle of the storm, which of course you can call me then, but like when you really want to be held accountable and told the truth, I'm okay with being that. And that's not always easy, but it's always respected and it's always valued. So that's kind of like a big way that I show up in the world in service of my soul, because that's the charge I've been given, because I have a bigger evolution for our planet in mind. That's not just about making sure people like me. I don't really.
Yeah. Yeah. And I completely relate to that as someone who spent a lot of time, money, and energy over his 45 years of trying to get people to like him. I can say absolutely, I'm testifying to that and raising my hand and saying, yeah, the disease to please will kill you. And I think that, and the reason that I asked how has that served you is because what I believe is when we are willing to show up in service of our truth, of our purpose, of our soul, whatever it is, in turn returns the favor, right? Like when I show up in service of the work that I came here to do and the life that I came here to live, it shows me how amazing it can really be when I do that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's amazing. And that's part of the surrender piece. Like, Oprah says, God dreamed a dream bigger than I could ever imagine. And that's the part of it. It's like, if I think that I know exactly how my life is supposed to go and don't leave some room for the mystery, some room for the divine, some room for the sacred to take over because I'm in service to it, then I'm missing the point. Like, I need to be in service to something that has my back more than I ever could.
Right. Right. And in ways that you can't even imagine.
Exactly. Part of that for me is tithing. So I tithe 10% of my income to queer Black women, artists, and activists. I write random checks and I send them in the mail to people. Sometimes I know them and sometimes I don't. And every single time, Andrew, every single time the check gets cashed, I get more money every single time without fail, like clockwork. So for me, that's the important part, to like be able to give away part of what I do, not just to get in return, but it's like also who do I want to be more well supported in the world? Who do I want to be more well nourished? Who do I want to be taken care of? And how can I give to that? And then in turn, I'm also taken care of.
Beautiful. And it is, I think you hit on something really important. It's that deliberate willingness to show up and take actions like that, right? To allow yourself to follow those, and the energies of inspiration or those nudges. And, I think that's the beautiful thing is we don't have to know how it's going to play out. We just have to, what I say is I remember this very clearly years ago. I was walking down the street with someone and I gave, someone was asking for spare change, someone on the street. This was when I was in Seattle, and I gave this person, I think $5 or whatever. And this person said, well, how do you know that she's not going to just go spend that on drugs or alcohol or whatever? And I said, what, I don't give it conditionally. If you want to break it down to a karmic thing, my karma is, do I choose to give the money or not? Her karma is, am I being honest about how I'm going to spend this money? It has nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
And just following those nudges to say, what, this is what I'm inspired to do. This is what feels correct for me. So that's what I'm going to do right now.
Absolutely. Because the reality is we are given to unconditionally, right? The universe, the God, whatever we're calling it, gives us breath, gives us life, gives us sunshine, gives us trees unconditionally. It's not about like whether we show up as this quote unquote perfect person, but we are given to unconditionally. And so being willing to also give unconditionally, it feels like grace to me. It feels like service of the soul to me. That all feels like, and that's why, going back to your question a couple of segments ago, if you are overwhelmed and have a lot on your plate, it's like, how can you do what you can with what you have right here and right now? You don't have to go off and get a million certifications or trainings or retreats or a thing, but how can you be the soul of the place that you are right here, right now, with the tools that you have in this very moment? That's all. That's all that's asked.
Yeah. And just being willing. And if you don't know how, you're just being willing to show up. And it's like what you said, breathing into where you are. If you don't know, that's okay too. So showing up and saying, universe, God, angels, whatever, I don't know. I'm willing to be shown.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Oh, yes. It's so true.
I've been like jumping up and down, like with so much excitement. There's so much energy in this conversation. And it's been such a lovely conversation. And we only have about a minute left. But if you can give us something, for people who are listening and who are wondering like, okay, so I listened to this amazing conversation, or maybe I didn't think it was amazing and now I'm just really unsure. What would you say for someone who's saying, okay, but how do I start? Where do I begin? Like, can you just sum it up and give someone something that they can take away today to begin to shift?
So first, breathe and accept yourself exactly where you are. And it sounds simple, but it's probably one of the most complicated things. And to just trust that you are exactly where you are, doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, and ask, what's next? There's a prayer in A Course in Miracles that says, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? And if that's where you want to start there and see what emerges, see what answers come, and know that whatever comes is perfect.
Amazing. Laren, I just love you so much.
I love you so much.
I wish this was a 5-hour show. Really quick before we end, tell people how they can find you again.
You can find me at sisterfire.com, sisterfire.com.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Just a reminder, I am the second and fourth Thursday of every month. So you won't see me next Thursday, but you'll see me the Thursday after that. Thank you so much for listening to A Life Untethered with Andrew Martin. My amazing guest, Laren Alta, thank you so much for being with me today. We have to do more of this. We've got to have you back. To all of you who are listening, thank you for listening. Take care of yourselves so that you can take care of each other. Until next time, have a great day.
You've been listening to A Life Untethered with Andrew Martin, walking the path of freedom. Continue on your path by visiting Andrew's site at thelightedones.com. There, you'll find tools and services to support you on your journey of expansion and evolution. If you missed any part of this show, while you were there, you can also download the podcast. Tune in live every second and fourth Thursday at 12 p.m. Pacific for A Life Untethered with Andrew Martin.